Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tech Bros podcast. It's with me, Raj.
Myself, Egerton.
And me, Damien. And it's so good to be with you guys again here in the lovely sunny Slough. I hope Egerton's ode studio.
People listening have noticed, I think, how different the podcast is when we're all in person versus doing on Discord, because I think it is a little bit.
We can bounce off each other a lot better. And there's no lags, and it's not a camera. I'm seeing you guys, and it's nice to see you with a real face and not, a pretend one on the screen. I don't know if that's really you.
Speaking of which, wow, what a great segue. Thank you, Damien.
What, facial recognition?
Yeah, I recognize your face.
And so does the government.
Ah.
If you're walking into your local Asda, you may have noticed recently that Asda have been introducing facial recognition technology. And you can sense that them using this said facial recognition technology by simply entering the store.
Yeah.
So, we know of recent, the last year or so, I think, obviously the political landscape has changed drastically, and I think that we all know that there's going to be some subjects here that are quite tough, and people aren't going to agree with everything, and I just kind of want to stipulate a disclaimer here that we're not trying to enforce any opinions, we're not trying to have any conversation that is going to marginalize or segregate, cause segregation, or cause any marginalization. We just want to talk about the subject of how this technology is being used. We want to talk about the subject of the Online Safety Act, and what facts we do know about it, and what's hearsay or what might not be hearsay, and obviously how this might be impacting people. This is purely commentary. It's not in any way, shape or form criticism. We just want to understand it a bit more. I think with the modern age, we need to have these discussions, and they have to be mature discussions. So with that being said, and then we'll talk about now the facial recognition technology. Asda, as I mentioned, has rolled out facial recognition technology in their stores. You are being viewed on their CCTV at all times, and it's scanning your face. And this is obviously used to reduce crime such as theft within their stores. And obviously that's clearly for them an increased problem, and I support it. I support more reasons to reduce theft. But at what point is having facial recognition technology becoming an infringement of our freedoms? Now, obviously, no one has a right to privacy in a public place. That's been in law for as long as law has existed. So people are under the impression you can't be recorded when you're outside. So if someone's got a camera and it's, they're recording you, you can't really do anything about it. Police can't do anything about it. You're in public. But when you move into premises like private premises, you are essentially agreeing to the terms and conditions of that premises when you're in there. And you are being recorded by CCTV. And it's not just Asda. Other stores are implementing other methods of anti-theft measures through the usage of cameras and AI, which we've talked about on many subjects in previous episodes. Links in the description. Sorry, it's an extra admin task for Egerton there. So, and obviously, in Egerton, you've experienced this yourself with Tesco's recently. You mentioned earlier on today.
Yes. So with Tesco, my local Tesco, they've introduced a system where when you go into store and you're using that, what do you call it? That scan, what do they call it? I even forgot the name of the actual system they use.
Scan as you shop?
Yeah, scan as you shop. That's it. When you scan as you shop, when you get to the checkout, before you get to the checkout, it will ask to weigh your basket or weigh your trolley. And if there's a mismatch, in what you scanned and what's in your basket or trolley, it will not allow you to proceed. And that is an kind of a new anti-theft measure that they're actually starting to roll out. I believe that my local Tesco is the first as a trial, and they will probably end up looking to roll that out once the trial is successful. So yeah, times are changing.
It's really weird. I remember seeing this sort of technology being used back when Amazon introduced some supermarkets.
Oh yes,
where
Amazon.
it was completely like colleagueless.
Yeah,
barring a couple of security guards at the entrance of the store.
yeah.
So it's not like this stuff wasn't ever going to be used by mainstream supermarkets, but it was obviously I'd say pioneered by Amazon in this respect because of the way Amazon is run. So to see this in like regular supermarkets at checkouts, and even with the using AI now to identify behaviors is it's scary because now everyone's being treated like a suspect when they shop.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me feel welcome into a store. It's obviously, I understand it's to protect their profits. These companies make an awful lot of profits. Like, honestly. So where do you guys stand with it? What do you guys think about it? How do you feel when you go to a store with the idea that potentially you're being watched like a criminal?
Well, I believe there's always that innocent until proven guilty. So if you've got nothing to hide, you're not come to steal anything, then there's nothing to worry about.
How do you feel about your data being used? Your face is now your data. For like to get into your phone, you need your face. So
yeah,
like your face has become data.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that?
I think when you don't know where it's going, it can be rather unsettling because you don't know where it's being used. You don't know if it's going to end up in another country. For you could be on a TV show in another country.
Right.
So yes, not knowing where your data is actually going is a concern. At the end of the day as well, there's not really much you can do because if you
have to go shop, you have to do it.
You have to. So yeah.
I mean, I feel like as long as the infrastructures are being used within the, like for example, the technology is being used within the UK, I guess I feel less worried about how it could be abused elsewhere. Obviously, I'm not giving my name and address. At least at the point I'm entering the store, I feel like where your transactions may be digital, using a card or Apple Pay, all of that gets aligned to the technology that's being used in the store, so they can create a map of your usage. How does that get used? How does that get accessed? What are the rules surrounding this? Like there's a lot of ambiguity and not a lot of, I guess, terms and conditions that you're consenting to when you enter a store. That your data is being used. Yeah, we're going to use facial recognition technology to identify thieves. Fine. Whatever, you stole it from there and you get caught doing it again, or you walk into the store and they go, hey, you've been here before, you're not allowed in here.
Yeah.
Fine. But my question here is, how long is that data stored for? Does it comply with other rules like GDPR? Because it kind of comes to I'm assuming it falls into GDPR. Who can access it? Or is it just the store? Is it head office for the company? Police obviously would be able to have access if the crime's being committed or suspected. But where is this stored? Who has access to it? I'm not sure. And is it run by third-party companies, third-party servers? Where are those servers? We don't know when we walk into a store. Is it something that's on premises? Is this something that's a head office? Like a lot of the other stuff that systems would work. Again, none of that's kind of explained. And I feel that's where we're just blindly accepting. And not only that, facial recognition technology is now moved outside of supermarkets.
Yes.
The Metropolitan Police, for example, has had successful trials using it. Not just the Met, but other police forces as well.
Yeah.
All under the guise of, crime prevention. So recognizing people in the streets. But there have been situations where people have been falsely arrested because the technology wasn't good enough and could ruin people's lives who are completely innocent in their day to day. And we got to ask the question, where does the line get drawn? And what protections are in place for when misidentification has happened? Because I don't have any issues with crime prevention, but if I've done nothing and then I get my liberties taken away from me,
and your record is
for a
tarnished.
false flag, my record is tarnished, and the amount of effort that I had to go through to try and, like, having an arrest on your record is not good. Period. Even if regardless if you're prosecuted, it's not nice to have that experience on your belt to say that I've been arrested for something that I didn't do.
Yeah.
Because you can't undo that. You know? So, I don't know. I feel like people feel certain ways about it. And I do see the benefits. And I don't want to be one of those people that go, well, you know. But at the same time, is this just a replacement for just investing in better policing by deferring to technology? Oh, we don't have to hire more police officers. We'll use this technology and keep the same amount or less police officers and let them use the technology to do their job for them when they should be doing their job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I guess like a few things. One small thing is that, just in addition to what you were saying, is that the Met Police is currently trialing having facial recognition vans. So vans that drive around and just look for specific people, basically. So there's that, just to sort of say that it's coming out of the supermarket into the normal, just public places.
Into the public places, yeah.
Yeah. And I think to your point on I think there's always been obviously there's a balance between the surveillance that you have on a population and your ability to combat crime. And the sort of prevailing principle so far has been, if we surveil better, then we reduce crime. And I think that you get essentially to a point of diminishing returns where you are encroaching more and more on people's freedoms. And crime is not really, it will help a bit, but you're probably going to get more of what you're sort of talking about with these false positives, of these misidentifications.
Because criminals aren't dumb. They will constantly adapt and change their behavior in order to avoid and circumvent systems. It will go on forever. I don't think this is something that will ever be a solvable problem, because the more and more you get better at trying to detect crime and prevent crime, the more and more that the criminals are going to try and circumvent and not be detected by these systems. They're ballying up. They're using electronic bikes to do their stealing, but they've constantly got their faces covered. So it makes things like that technology redundant. But then you can't just necessarily profile someone who's wearing a balaclava, because this comes into areas such as people who have religious dress that cover faces, and that then becomes I'm not saying they're the same thing, but if you start enforcing one rule where it's perfectly legal to wear a balaclava and cover your face in public, it's down to the police to make the judgment of whether or not you're wearing it for appropriate reasons. If it's sunny, but then is that actually breaking the law? No. So the police have very restrictive powers, but then if you end up giving the police more powers to deal with that kind of behavior, you're then criminalizing behavior that isn't necessarily a crime.
Yeah.
And then it just again, it's just weird, this striking balance, and I think one doesn't necessarily supersede the other, but we've kind of got a conflict. I feel for the police. They have to make such terrible decision making with the information that they have, because they have to contend with different rules and different laws, and people are going to make mistakes. And at the end of the day, an individual, whether they're guilty or not guilty, for doing a crime, someone is going to pay for it who is completely innocent. We're in a very difficult time, I think, especially with the way crime is increasing, and I think we're relying too much on AI for that kind of stuff. I think.
I mean, like, kind of a simple example would be fingerprints. So if you are a criminal, probably like a smarter criminal, right, is going to be one who wears gloves.
Yeah.
And so essentially fingerprint analysis is going to be just off the table, because they're probably not going to leave a trace. And you're probably catching people who are maybe bad criminals, I guess, like not very good at it. And so, people who go to a crime scene and don't wear gloves, right?
Yeah.
But in that specific instance, what if someone's DNA, for example, ends up being on the scene and they weren't on the scene? The criminal hasn't left a trace. And so kind of what you're saying of
The only evidence points to someone who's potentially innocent.
yeah. And so that's kind of where, as criminals get smarter, you're going to have more of these kinds of false positives that come out of it, these misidentifications, right? And again, the prevailing wisdom has been, well, it's okay to have those cases if we are at least like almost the sort of weighting of missing a criminal versus falsely identifying someone as a criminal. And I think that the prevailing wisdom has been to prioritize catching every actual criminal, even if it means there are these false positives in the process. But then which I think actually maybe wouldn't be so bad if those people who were falsely identified, there was a clear process in place of when this happened,
of clearing their entire name based off of that arrest or that sort of interaction with them.
Reducing the reputational damage that they have.
I think there is.
I don't think there's a mechanism in place for that.
I think the police have been told, you need to use this now and deal with it, and there's been no processes that protect scenarios where false arrest occurs, because then it puts them up for liability with a civil lawsuit, which happens a lot with police forces at the moment anyway, where arrests have been made or detentions have been made incorrectly. In accordance to, especially with things like protests are going on, there's a lot of that going on, and there's a lot to contend with. Is something a public order offense? Is something not a public order offense? Someone gets removed or detained because of a public order offense, but they didn't really commit one. Cameras are everywhere. People are recording every interaction with the police now, so there's been a lot of eggshells to stand on. And it's I'm not like massive supporter of the police in how they deal with some of these things, but I also recognize that they are contending with so many variables and pressure, and I don't think the training that they're receiving is adequate enough to deal with this. So they are basically being thrusted with this new technology, but then not be given proper, I might be wrong, but not be given the right tools for every officer to understand and know the nuances around it. They're just told, this is the thing now, you have to deal with this. And they're using, the way they apply laws has to be modified, but not necessarily all of them just know or remember to use the new stuff or whatever. So
I mean, to play devil's advocate, if you were a policeman and you were told you have to do things the old-fashioned way, and you weren't allowed to use any kind of facial technology, I imagine that their job would be a lot harder, right?
Yeah, because I don't think modern police have been trained the way old school police have been trained.
No.
I feel like old school police officers would use things like intuition. They've used things that their skills that they've actually built in their career. A lot of retired police officers online voice their opinions that policing today is completely different than it was back in the day. And obviously for the right reasons, crime has changed and technology has changed. They recognize that. But has it made police officers lazy? Or has it made, I would say lazy. You can't be lazy for something you've never learned. But they're learning different things in different ways, which means that they're not policing the same way, which means they're probably not thinking about policing in the same way. It's more of a do attitude rather than a think attitude. I feel like a lot of people are following orders rather than actually using their judgment. And
but also, we're talking a lot about reactive policing. We're not necessarily talking much about prevention of crime.
Right, exactly. And I think, when we look at this technology, is this preventative? Yes. But mostly it's being used to try and find people who are wanted. At least that's what they say. But, you look similar to someone because AI thinks you look similar to someone. What potential impact could that do if you're walking with your family in the street and then you just so happen the AI says you look like this person who has assaulted someone sexually, and that could be an incredibly damaging arrest to make in front of your family. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's an extreme scenario, but
and I mean, to play devil's advocate again, this is what has happened in human eyewitness reports, right?
Right.
People get falsely identified
all the time, I suppose.
Because people's memories are very...
I suppose, is it more reliable to use AI that's already looking for someone actively, or is it... a third party person. I suppose you devil's advocate there does like play. Are we putting too much expectation or blame on the technology when actually the alternative isn't as reliable?
Yeah, and I think we're sort of talking about the privacy side of things. That's where there's an imbalance between those two. I think if we're talking about which is more accurate, I think that's a little bit more up for debate.
Yeah,
I would say.
I agree.
Yeah.
Which brings us on to the uses of things like technology and face recognition, because the Online Safety Act has been updated, and now websites which may have inappropriate content requires you to identify yourself when going online. Have you guys verified your ID or your face by letting it guess your age to log into websites that may be illicit material, or not even illicit material? Some places like YouTube and Discord and Spotify have started rolling this out, where you might listen to song lyrics that might be explicit, so therefore you must verify your age. I haven't experienced this with those platforms, but
I haven't seen that on Spotify.
No,
but people have reported it.
No, right.
I have experienced it obviously with pornography websites, which is a thing, and I refuse. Naturally, I do not want third-party companies, because they are using third-party companies that are not in the UK, and they're handling your data, and a lot of people are worried about this, and obviously this has increased. So there's been reports that the traffic on popular adult websites has gone drastically down, but VPN usage has gone drastically up. What do we think about this? And have you experienced any of this? Have you had to verify your ID anywhere? I've been asked a few places, but I've not done it.
The only one that I have as of recent was and I refuse to call it by its new name, Twitter, X.
Formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah,
The artist formerly known as Twitter. Yeah.
yeah. I still haven't come to terms with the name change. So I've been asked to do it on that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think they started rolling out on that.
Because there's content on there, I guess.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
I haven't been asked.
Yeah.
X, bro.
I was just randomly asked. I was like, oh, okay. I just use my.
Is it in-house technology or is it third party though? I feel like X has the money to make their own.
No, I think that their one was in-house, using Grok.
Okay.
I was using Grok.
Yeah, so Grok was doing that one, but I
feel less intimidated by that for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, because I guess I suppose for a lot of people, the privacy concern is more about these third-party companies that are implementing it then, right?
Yeah.
So that maybe that's why. If it's all kept in-house.
Meta already knows a lot about me now, so if they have to verify me, then I feel less bothered about that because they already know a lot about me. So
Yeah.
I'm not as bothered. I know it's going into the same databases somewhat. Whether they claim to throw it away or not, I don't know. But I don't know if I believe that, but let's say they do. They just use it at the point of verification. But I feel we're already a product with Meta anyway when we use it on Instagram and WhatsApp and all that stuff. We're already a product, so I don't feel like that would bother me as much. But yeah, absolutely. If a third-party website was to verify me, I don't know the name of this website, just because I want to satisfy myself, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go for the alternative, just not do it.
But just to dive into that, why are you okay with the fact that you're already a product? Like, to what extent are you what is it that you're okay about with the status quo? Is it?
I use the product. I use these platforms, so I've kind of already given up my details to them. So them verifying me for whatever reason, I don't feel as intimidated by that. There's nothing more they can learn about me other than what I've already given them anyway.
I guess, why were you okay getting to that stage in the first place? If I were to,
I don't think I'm okay with it. I think
you just sort of accepted that.
Accepted that that's the way it is. I've been on the platform, so for example, I use Instagram a lot. I've been on Instagram for a while. At this point, I've contributed so much to the algorithm that it probably knows a lot about me.
Yeah.
And I can't change that now. I can delete the data, sure, but I've gotten to a point where it's serving me a little bit of a purpose, but there's no negatives for me. Like, what can they do?
But I think there's maybe two different types of things here. One is what you're also talking about is inferential activity on the app, right? It's the things you click on, the things you engage with. And then there's the facial recognition part, which is not inferential. This is like, this is literally your face.
Yeah.
And
my display picture's got my face on it, so I don't really feel that bothered. That picture is public, that is out there. So
yeah.
I'm not really bothered about that.
Okay. So that's interesting, right?
But I would care if it was on an adult website, because that's personal.
Yeah.
If what things I like to watch, I probably only want to share with my partner, or people might even want to share with their partner. Maybe they're into something that they're not comfortable about, or they have a sexuality that they're not public about. So they might be into male on male content, but they're not out. So you know what I mean? It's like there's things like that these are private things for people that they don't want to share. But then all of a sudden you're sharing this with a third party company by putting your name to it. It almost feels like there's a potential for someone to get a hold of that data, piece together what you like, and use it against you.
Yeah.
There's already scams emails out there that say that we're watching your web, that you've had malware and they're watching your webcam, and they're going to email. There's something new protected junk.
Yeah,
everyone gets it.
Yeah.
I've been watching you for weeks now or months now, and I want this much Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I'm going to email all of your family and friends, because I've got all your. And these are bait emails. These are scam emails.
And waste
Go
people.
forth of them, but they're trying to use intimidation tactics to fear people into paying money to avoid their private life, their private habits being exported. I don't think it's that anything is potentially people are doing are illegal. I'm talking in general, people are quite embarrassed by what they might watch in pornography or that sort of. People might be embarrassed by watching adult material. And like I said, there's things like not sharing your sexuality or fantasies that you might have that you've not necessarily shared with your partner. People have a right to have that privacy.
Yeah, so that makes sense. But what if there was facial recognition, say, to log into Instagram? Would that be crossing a line for you?
Is it done at an app level, or is it done at a server level? Does the app verify the data that's held on the local device? Because in some ways you do that when you log into an account. You use Face ID on an iPhone to log into your Apple or your online banking. I don't necessarily think that's actually held at the at the server of the app. I believe some cases it's used as like an additional PIN. Or as an alternative to your PIN. So your PIN is held against whether it's recognized by the device, and then that authorizes you into the app. In cases like that where it's locally held, I have no issues with it has to go to a server that's somewhere in the world. I feel a little bit more uncomfortable about that idea. Because
I would feel uneasy about that.
Because I think it uses infrared or things like that. So it uses particular details on your face to be able to recognize who you are as a digital makeup of some sort. And I think that's where it becomes dangerous in the hands of the wrong people.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking these questions, is to try and understand where this line is, at least for you guys, in terms of there's something about whether the data is being kept
that's
in-house.
reputation of the company as well.
Yeah.
Like if Meta develops their own stuff and it's in-house, I'm okay with it, because at least I've agreed to terms and conditions of the website anyway, so I know that my data should be held in accordance to how my existing data is already held. Whereas if I have to go to a website that's using a third party, I have to now agree to the third party's terms and conditions in order to provide my details to be verified into that website. It just feels like there's an extra person I don't want involved in in that transaction. And a lot, like, I'll use everyone's favorite adult website, Pornhub, as an example. You have to have an account if you want to verify yourself. So when you verify yourself, you're logged in. And if you don't want to verify yourself again, you need to log in, because that account is verified. So you can't watch it without having an account. Whereas anonymously, you could go in and watch and not have to log in. And that's what That website's what I do, and they are the most popular one on the web, on the net. Now the issue is being the most popular, the most highest traffic adult website online. You think that they would have invested in their own in-house technology. I would still be kind of uncomfortable with it, but I'd be more comfortable than a third-party company verifying me.
It's probably just because it's just less work for them.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And they have a deadline. They had a strict deadline, and the penalties are massive.
Yeah,
£20,000 plus additional daily fees
I thought it
thereafter.
was more than that.
It could go up to like millions.
Yeah.
I think it was something like 10% of revenue or
Oh, yeah,
180,000. Yeah, whichever's more.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
I think the initial fine for one of the websites that came up recently, which was 4chan, and obviously there's a lot of issues that the UK government are going to have with regards to companies that are not UK based. A lot of them are in the States, and the States have a lot more freedom laws in that case, and we can't infringe on those, but they also won't enforce fines that are from external government bodies in the country. So
I think most states are also trying to do similar things. So obviously, the motivation behind, I think, those acts and this
Texas and Georgia have the same laws. You
Texas
have
and
to
Georgia.
verify your ID to access adult content. But I don't know if it's just adult content or if it's like explicit content or harm. And there's also brings in questions like Wikipedia, for example, has also been told they need to add verification.
Yeah.
But it's Wikipedia.
Yeah, and they might have to restrict how much they actually.
But that ultimately, if no websites comply, the internet's going to become a very small place for UK users, because they're just going to have to block them at the ISP the way they blocked torrent websites back in the day.
Oh my God, torrent websites.
Yeah, because the idea, I suppose, with the acts is also to clamp down on things like bullying, abusive content.
Yeah.
And children access is stuff they should do, which as a parent I support, but I also believe a lot of that is my responsibility. I should be monitoring what my child is accessing, and I do. I have unfortunately succumbed to giving my daughter a tablet, but she's restricted to 2 hours maximum a day at the moment. It'll go down to 1 hour when she's back at school, which she's not going to like, but tough. Hear me, Robin? Tough.
Did you hear about this Japanese town that's restricting smartphone usage to 2 hours a day?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, they're trying that out as a law.
I think it's a good
term.
I think it's good. Even I think that
I actually don't mind that.
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
get outside and enjoy nature.
Touch grass.
Yeah,
Touch grass.
you know the world is real if you just go outside and experience it.
Enjoy matcha.
But yeah, so like, you know, I feel like there's an element of responsibility on the parents. I feel like it's my responsibility to ensure that my daughter accesses content that's only meant for her at her age. I understand it's harder to do that when kids are not stupid, and this is where I feel like this has made it hard for adults to just have everyday lives. Their freedoms have been restricted when it should be their responsibility to ensure that children are not accessing this stuff. I don't believe a teenager should have a smartphone. I really don't. Ironic, I know, because I've got a tablet from my daughter who is under the age of 10. But again, I'm using the tools that are available to me. It's a Google device or an Android device, and I have Google Family, and I restrict the apps that she can use, how long she can use it for.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling generous, give her a little bit more time on it if she wants to. She asks nicely. But ultimately, I'm enforcing the rules. I'm enforcing what she can access. I can see what she can access. And, you know, we've had conversations, and I think they've been really productive, and she understands. And more parents should do that.
But not all of them do.
Not all of them do is the issue. And I think that's where this problem arises. And you have to do, I guess that's why the act is there. It's for the greater good.
And I was reading this article, and
there's so many. Sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, there's so many challenges ahead. It's just been released. It's new. We're still trying to. I guess they're still trying to figure it out. I do believe it's going to be modified in some way, shape, or form to stop the outcry that it's getting, and I think it will improve. There will be some improvements made to it. Sorry, you go ahead.
No, that's good. So there was an article that I was looking at in The Atlantic, and it made a good point, which was that obviously the motivation of these laws has been about the protection of the content that under 18s see.
Yeah.
But the point in the article was that it's not like for everyone when they turn 18, all of a sudden a switch kind of flips in their head where they are all of a sudden
mature adults.
They're mature adults and they're able to process the content they see. Even if you're older than 18, seeing certain kind of distressing content is still going to
affect you.
Affect
you to see, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And so it's almost like, and that's where a lot of the privacy concerns around this has come about. It's because it's required IDs, verification of identity, in order to prove that you're 18 or over.
Yeah.
And really, what would be better is actually having a blanket sort of thing for all content, regardless of age, because then you wouldn't have the same sort of privacy concerns and requirements of ID, because it's not about verifying your age, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But at what point would that be established into your journey on the internet? At the beginning?
Yeah, I suppose.
And where is that held? Is it held locally on your machine? Does your machine determine whether you can access something? And then does that, you know what I mean? Like if you verify with your machine,
but this is specifically for the privacy concern side of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, when it comes to that side of it, that's different.
I guess then brings us the elephant in the room then, VPNs, because all of this is great, but VPNs exist. So if I use one. I already had a VPN because I was one of those sticklers who liked to view content that wasn't necessarily available on my Netflix in the UK. So if I wanted to watch a TV series elsewhere, so I actually already had the VPN. So it's coming great handy to me to already have that, so I can avoid having to give up my data again. But obviously, kids aren't stupid. And kids know how technology works, arguably better than the lawmakers. I think I remember seeing a video about someone in Parliament talking about VPNs, and then basically saying anyone who uses a VPN is a child predator. Not verbatimly saying that, but that's what they were saying, which I thought was absolutely diabolical to come out of the mouth of someone who clearly was a bit of a boomer in that respect. They don't understand technology, they don't understand what that's for. So I think little things like that, like the government doesn't fully understand what they've implemented, and they don't fully understand that, you know, young people are incredibly techno savvy. I am at an age now where, even though despite my job, I feel like teenagers today are probably a lot quicker on the whip even than I am with some of this stuff, which begs the question: are we just is this just an inevitable loss for the government? It's not going to change anything. Do you think? Like, what's your opinions on that?
Well, to be honest, how I see VPNs is that, like me, I use a VPN. Again, I use a VPN to access websites that are not available in this country, like especially when I go away on holiday and I want to check and see what food this place serves, where this food
Some like American websites. I think I know what you're alluding to. Some American websites have even just regionally blocked anyone that's outside of a state because they don't want to have to add in a cookie banner that deals with GDPR.
That's exactly.
And they'd rather just say you don't have access to this website because you're not in the United States. We don't serve the UK.
Yeah.
So you lose access to a news outlet in, I don't know, Omaha. But who cares, right? But that's an example of using a VPN.
Yeah.
And not only that, if they go, well, the next thing now is to outlaw VPNs so the children and people can't circumvent the law. But how do you do that when every business requires a VPN?
That's it. Even my company, for us to do what we need to do to conduct our role, sometimes we have to be on a VPN.
Yeah. I don't know if you're in an organization that needs to use VPN.
We do, yeah.
We do. So, you know, how does would a law or a rule fit in with regards to the greater usage of VPNs where it's required by businesses? Do they get a license? Do you need a license for a VPN? Would that be what they then start introducing? So
I imagine so. I think it could be.
I feel like that's where it's going to go.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But then does this make all of this stuff, does this become an authoritarian behavior? Like, let's not ignore the biggest elephant in the room about
so many
elephants. So many elephants. This is China's already using this kind of stuff, and we obviously have opinions on China about how they do this kind of stuff. And are we like the pot calling the kettle black at this point? Because we're basically doing what China's doing. China has active facial recognition technology in public places all the time, right down to people who don't cross the road when they shouldn't, and they get like shamed by the traffic lights for crossing the road illegally.
We need that. We need that.
We don't need that.
It's
a static.
That's when
People don't know how to cross the road.
That's when Egerton was brought around to authoritarianism. Yeah? That's when we see the political shift happen.
Shame.
Oh dear. But where do we start falling in line? And obviously now we're facing, on a political front, we're facing criticisms from the Americans about our freedom of speech laws in the UK. Current Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, says we have free speech in Britain. We're very proud of our free speech laws. But those are getting encroached every day, where people are being imprisoned. I'm not saying that obviously things that they say online aren't necessarily right to say, but the enforcement of the laws is being very much very split. Like, for example, a Labour MP saying very similar things in a public place, which definitely, in my opinion, goes against public order laws, saying such as Section 5 Public Order Act, where it could cause harassment, alarm, and distress to people, and people have been arrested because of for that infringement. But in court, he was let off, and then there's people who said very horrible things about burning migrant hotels, and then obviously facing up to 30 months in prison. And, it's one rule for one, rule for another, same sort of thing. The Labour MP threat said that we should cut people's throats who are on the right. Whether you agree with those political stances, I think violence or the encouragement of violence against people is bad, period, regardless of which part of the political spectrum you stand on. But how is that, again, being policed? And this is where, authoritarian law, let's say, I don't want to call it an authoritarian laws, but I'm saying there are authoritarian governments in the world that have very similar laws, but we are encroaching on those boundaries of what's called a socialist or capitalist nation into an authoritarian or what's the other one? We'll just say authoritarian governance, and it's interesting.
Can I throw another elephant into the room?
By all means, I love the elephants.
This room is now full of them. They're just it's getting a little cramped in here. I know. They do take up a lot of space.
Yeah.
But I think that actually there has been a growing trend, which is that people actually are becoming more and more coming around to the idea of authoritarianism. And in the sense that I think people are looking at places like Russia and China, and they say things like, look how clean it is. Look how little crime they have.
I guess it's like, sort of I'm willing to give up some of my liberties for safety and for order.
Again, it's that balance between how much is controlled and surveilled and how much crime is there.
I think as a country, we've been a certain way for so long that we're naturally evolving into something different because of how the internet specifically is playing a big part. How things like mass movement of people, I'm not necessarily saying for or against, I'm saying that in general, we have mass movement of people in the world. Borders and the world is a lot smaller today than it was 100 years ago.
That's true.
With the internet, with the modern travel, with people used to travel on boats, now we are on planes. You can get to places in hours. Technology is massively improved, and the internet is the small space. I talk to friends all the time in the States, like they're across the road. And it sounds very old of me to say that because we've had this for a long time, but it's just like increasingly with the internet being the way it is now, the way information travels, atrocities happening in the world isn't just, received through mainstream media. People are seeing it but at first hand on their screens in their pockets, and they're able to see, it's harder to pull the wool over people's eyes. Do you know what I mean? So the world is an increasingly growing place, and it's an increasingly scary place. And yeah, I agree. children are being
Yeah.
exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to a lot earlier on.
That's very true.
Both in regards to explicit content on the sexual front, but also in the violent front. Things like self-harm, people being groomed online. All of this is increasingly and it's dangerous. And for me as a parent, yeah, I could see why people are gravitated towards nations that have more authoritarian ethos, we'll say, because but at the same time, I don't agree with it fully, but I see the benefits of it. And it's a very big conflict. For me, I'm just going with the flow. Whatever will be. I have no real say in this equation. So as long as I'm living happy, as long as my children are healthy, and as long as I have a roof over my head, I personally don't care. But I know that's not necessarily going to be the motivation for everyone. It's a very hard topic to discuss, and politically, everyone is so divided between the label of left and the label of right that at this point in time, it's this us versus them mentality is gone beyond the joke now. It's always been there, I think, but technology has definitely aided in increasing that division. But
I think that's the thing. It's like people you can rely all of this just on your sort of trust of other people and senses of community and that sort of thing. And I think that as those feelings have eroded, it's become more alluring for people to just advocate for more just top-down control, because ultimately they don't trust other people. Like you were sort of saying about how you manage the content of your child's iPad, because it's ultimately left to parents to manage themselves.
Yes,
but
I know that not every parent's going to be like me.
Exactly.
I recognize that. I recognize that fully. That not everyone's going to be responsible, and I do my best to be responsible as the adult in the household, or the other adult in the household. I feel it's my responsibility to do that, to protect my children against harm and potential bad content or people online. Like there's a lot of controversy surrounding Roblox at the moment, and maybe that's a subject for another time. But again, this falls into safety for young people online. Ultimately, I think that's kind of at the back of my mind. That's kind of where I'm looking at it. I recognize that it's not solely for that reason, but I also recognize that that is an important part of the equation, and I think I have to recognize that. It's a hard subject, and I don't know everyone who's listening to this probably won't agree fully with what I've said. And admittedly, I think I don't fully follow or understand it enough to be able to concretely say it's one thing or another thing. I just think, at the end of the day, I'm trying to navigate this new thing, this new way of online experience in the best way I can. And granted, I'm being a bit rebellious, but I already had a VPN. I wasn't one of those people going, I'm going to get a VPN because of this. I already had one, so I'm going to use it. But I can see why people have. And I feel people are afraid to let go and let the system take over and be in control of them a little bit. And I think it's kind of a natural thing. We've kind of always been a nation, not even just us as a nation, but I think, even as a society globally, we've never been fully compliant. There's always been some sort of resistance to new things and new ideas anyway, and that's just a normal part of it. But we've not really experienced it in our lifetime. This is probably the first big thing in our lifetime that we've experienced this. And we're seeing the shift. We saw the shift from technology going. We all grew up in the 90s, so we remember what it was like before the internet. In our houses,
absolutely.
And then we saw that shift go into internet cafes.
God.
And then now everyone has an internet in their pocket. So we've experienced that. And that was the first big shift. And this is the next big shift. And the next big shift is involving AI. It's involving laws surrounding that. If laws don't adapt to these new things, then, well, criminals are going to use and exploit it. So I guess there's so many things to think about. But I don't know. It's not this podcast, by the way, is not looking for those answers. It's just a discussion. And as I said at the beginning of this one, I think this is this is just a topic that it's new. We're still trying to figure it out. And I guess maybe in a year's time, we could probably revisit this and see where we are, where we're at, and how much has changed in a year, and how much, what things have been brought in. Maybe the government might do something different. And maybe say, okay, maybe we were a bit too heavy-handed, or here's these new things. I don't know. I'd like to think that this isn't just the way it's going to be. I feel like people are going to either warm up to it, see the benefits of it. The data doesn't lie. I like data. Data is reflective, as long as it's honest. So, I think maybe we just need more time, more data to really show whether this is is for the greater good. And if it's not, then, do what you're allowed to do and vote. Vote, speak to your MPs, and have your say. Don't be afraid to talk about it, because at the end of the day, we've been brought up to question and understand the world, and I think it's important to have these conversations with people and not just divide. I think that's the main thing. I hate division, and there's so much division.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be about multiplication, not division.
Exactly. Then we shouldn't be blocking those websites. I'm joking.
This is the Politics Bro podcast.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll get off of this because it's not just about tech, but it's going to think. But yeah, thank you. If you have an opinion on this, if you think, how has the Online Safety Act affected you within the UK, and if you're from outside the UK, how do you see it affecting you? How do you think your country is dealing with this sort of topics? And moreover, I think as well, what's your opinions on AI-assisted facial recognition technology, and do you feel worried that Big Brother is watching you? Are we going to fulfill the prophecy of George Orwell and become a 1984 state, or is this just still pure fiction? I'd like to know. Scary world out there.
Can I add one more small thing?
Of course.
There was I was reading that Forbes and PC Gamer had found that people were able to circumvent facial recognition by scanning images from like characters in video games that looked very realistic.
So this is where the technology still has flaws. Oh dear.
Wow.
Thanks your brother in that.
Not good.
Wow.
Not good.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.